Welcome everyone to Ruslan's Bortnik YouTube channel in English. Today we're going to have a unique interview because we have more guests. We have dear guests from India, Dr. Binay and Dr. Gulritz, as well as Ruslan Bortnik is going to join us today. We have an interesting discussion. We're going to talk about India today, its history, its current foreign policy, and what's its strategy and unique agenda that they're trying to bring to us, to the world. I want to introduce to you our guests. Dr. Binay, he's a maritime entrepreneur, consultant, and political analyst. Dr. Gulritz Sheikh, geopolitical analyst, doctor, a dentist, and an author as well. Everybody knows Ruslan Bortnik. He's the head of the Ukrainian Institute of Politics, geopolitical experts, and political analyst. Welcome, everyone.
Hello, colleagues.
Thank you. Hello.
I want to start with Dr. Gulritz. Thank you so much for joining me today. And I think that topic would be a major area of your expertise. I want to talk about the foreign affairs of India. I think India it's a unique player at the moment in the world with a very wide and long history. And I think people are very curious what India is today, right? And what it is in terms of its foreign policy. What are India's priorities in its foreign policy, because it's in a unique position and it has unique agenda that it's trying to bring. Just if you can give us a slight overview before we jump into specific questions, what is India's foreign policy? What are they looking for at the moment to achieve in terms of their political interests?
See, as far as our foreign policy is concerned, we are a major player and we want to become a big player. You can say, we are striving to become the global power, and but our foreign policy is based on the non-violent principles which we have adhered for thousands of years, and we are still adhering to it. And for India, you are asking what are the Indian interests. As far as Indian interests are concerned,
and priorities, right? Like, what are the main
both the things. Indian priority is Indians, and when you are looking at Indians, you are actually caring for 1/5 of the world's population. Imagine if government of India is not bothered about and they do not have priorities about Indians. Let it be getting cheaper oil or other stuff then what will happen to the 1/5 of world population? And when 1/5 of world population is not in a good shape, then entire 4/5 population is going to suffer. So caring for India is caring for the world in another sense.
That's an interesting perspective, right? Because when you mention it that way, it does sound like, big. It's actually 1/5 of the population. So I feel like the government, the leadership of India feels a major responsibility.
Definitely. And as far as the Indian foreign policy is concerned, we believe in our strategic autonomy. We believe in the independent foreign policy, and we have been working on that since 1947, since we got freedom from British Empire. And even today, on India is a country with a spine, and Indian government is a government with a spine. We are very good friends of the Western Bloc, particularly the United States of America, but we are also in the Eastern Bloc. We are friends with Russia. We are friends with Middle Eastern countries, and when we are friends with Middle Eastern countries, we are friends with Arab nations as well as Israel. And this is the unique position which only India is having in today's day and age. We are with everybody, but we are independent. And some days back, I was the one who criticized Eric Garcetti, who is the US ambassador in India, when he was actually commenting on India's strategic autonomy, because we Indians love our strategic autonomy, and we have shown the guts a number of times when we were having pressure from the Western camp or from the Eastern camp, that we will do what is good for Indians. We will do what is good for our strategic autonomy, and we are the one of the big poles of the unipolar world. And I can say that we are one of the driving engines of the unipolar world.
I think people will have a reasonable question. How did India succeed to do so? You're saying that India is friends with a lot of nations, nations that are conflicting between themselves. For instance, you've mentioned Israel and Arab countries. Those are the sides that are conflicting, right? And as well, how is India balancing its relationship between bigger players like United States, Russia, and China? What is India's success to balance those relationships and to succeed keeping its interests in the area for Indians, as you're saying, and also balancing between those players. Because sometimes, for example, United States and China, they're getting into a more critical phase of their trade war. How is India balancing in that circumstance? And just in other examples, right? Um, how would you describe Indian success? Who brought up that policy? Who developed it? And why and how India is following it that successfully?
See, if you want to look at Indian foreign policy, you have to paint on a bigger canvas because a smaller canvas painting cannot show it. And we have actually suffered because of our independent foreign policy. But irrespective of the suffrage, we continued it, and we continued it from past 75 years, and we are not leaving it. Remember those days when India was a poor country, and because that time we were quite close to Soviet Union, we were not having those perks which the other countries who were in the Western camp were getting. Let it be in terms of economy, let it be in terms of technology transfer, we were not getting it. But even then, we did not left the policy of foreign policy independence. And even you look, we we were actually pushed by both the sides a number of times when we joined Quad, which is the quadrilateral dialogue of four country grouping: United States, India, Australia, and Japan. Then that time we were having a lot of pressures from our eastern buddies, including Russia. But it was in our strategic interest and foreign policy, independent foreign policy, we went for it. When we were purchasing S-400 missile system, at that time we were actually threatened with US sanctions, but we went ahead and we purchased. Today the situation is like that. India is on the sweet spot, I will say, a geopolitical sweet spot, and everybody want to be friend with India. And that is the reason I say today's India has become sanction proof, but we were always not sanction proof. Don't forget, when we conducted the nuclear test, we were actually burdened with n number of Western sanctions. But even then, we did not crawl. We stood straight with our spines, and today it is paying us. And we are going to continue it, irrespective of the pressures.
Dr. Binay, I want to forward the topic towards your expertise. You have a strong business and economical background. If we can admire and learn a lot from India's political foreign policy, what does that mean in numbers? Is it as successful as in diplomatic bloc?
Yeah. Thank you for the question. Yeah, of course, in diplomatically, India and Ukraine relationship as of now not so stronger as with Russia. Yeah, their region because for since independence of Ukraine, there was not so much effort done to strengthen this relationship. Yeah, one government come, they always they have focused to USA and Europe. Therefore, this relationship always slacken. But last 5 years, there is some diplomatical efforts done to strengthen relationship between Ukraine and India. But again, due to Russia dependence, India and Russia, there is dependence between them because India depends on Russia due to oil, gas, and nuclear power as well weapons, lot of army helicopters and weapons only buy from Russia. Yeah, but albeit there is a lot of exported from Ukraine as well. But that time there was no any such diplomatically any relationship developed between Ukraine and India. So Russia has given privilege from this. As Dr. Gulresh said that Russia is friend for India. Russia is not friend for India. This is not friendship. This is a business relationship. First of all, business relationship, because there is an interest, mutual interest on business. Then come political, because political leaders, they make route and then come business. But in Ukraine, that is I can say, unfortunately, our leaders, they have not paved the road to make a relationship between India and Ukraine on business side. And I'm sure that Ruslan also agree with me. And therefore, what we face now. But when we have our ambassador, Harsh Kumar Jain, who recently transferred from here, he said that in 3 years, there are a big amount of transaction done between India and Ukraine. More than 20 millions of transaction for pesticides, for machinery, for Tata chassis, from Tata export to Ukraine import. So on business relationship, there is a slacken. And of course, obviously, there is no any diplomatically strength, because no business, no politics. Yeah.
That
So
makes
at
sense.
least-
If we're strongly focusing on numbers first, it's very clear how to do your business without being tied up to political agenda.
Yeah, sure. But for bigger, largest business, scale up business, we need support of government. And Ukrainian government, they have not supported till now business so much. They have supported, but very on less scale. Therefore, now Ruslan is also aware, and I would like to aware you that we are now founding Ukrainian Indian Business Association to get Ukrainian and Indian businessmen on table and make that transaction between them, and then the relationship will strengthen. And strengthen.
Dr. Vinay, what do you think can be an interest of area for India and Ukraine?
Yeah,
What
they
India
vegetable
can
well.
gain?
India is a largest importer of vegetable oil from Ukraine, and Ukraine has second position post-COVID to supply of vegetable oil, sunflower oil. And Dr. Gulresh, I think that he agree with me, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So vegetable oil, and then pesticides, fertilizers, ammonia. Yeah, we have here from Germany, of course, Kirvagrad Steel Company and concern. I know Ruslan very aware, but it's Mittal. Mittal is from where? He's from India. Yeah, he just residing now in Germany. But this company, origin from India, Indian company, Mittal, and in Ukraine. So you see, already here is a foundation. Only need to this foundation to develop. So when we develop, then there will be a reality. Of course, for me, this is not difficult to say that India, Ukraine will be more strengthened relationship other than Russia, because Russia is destroying own country, own people, isn't it? Yeah. If you go, I have a lot of friends inside country also who are not supporting war, and leaders in Russia, and they're not supporting war. But what is meaning of media? Media making that everyone supporting. In India also same. I think Dr. Gulresh agree with me. Yeah, isn't it? In India, you see what is not reality. My mother see what is not reality. My mother see this Odessa already captured. But Odessa not captured. She called me and I say, I'm not captured. I'm not hostage. You see? So what is the media doing? So we have to deliver this good that we are today talking, and this interview will deliver to India through Dr. Gulresh. And people will see what is reality. So this is a reality as of now. So therefore, there is a lot of chances to strengthen relationship between Ukraine and India.
Yeah, I cannot agree more than saying that it's very important to portray and paint the actual situation that is going on inside the countries and not just looking at the media projection that certain countries are trying to project outside to the world. Ruslan, I want to talk a little bit more about India's foreign policy. I think Ukraine, as well as other countries, can learn from India's geopolitical agenda, trying to be neutral and maintain friendly and financially beneficial relationship with everyone. What do you think are the key points that we can take from India's foreign policy to be more successful and suggest that those points to other countries as well?
Hello, colleagues. For me, India is trying to keep her strategic uncertainty in international policy still. It shows us, especially in the status of non-alignment country nowadays. India is not trying to close all the doors in the world. India is trying to keep open all the doors, all the countries on the blocks at the same time. It's a natural position of this country because this country still needs a lot of external resources. I'm talking about the energy resources. I'm talking about the technology, and this country still needs an ability to be present in international markets, to sell her own goods. So India played this role, and this role sometimes is very painful for Ukraine, for any country, for any region when we have a conflict in the world. Because when we have a conflict, there is only black and white. There is a sides of conflict which are fighting together. And of course, each of side wants to take on his side, her side, such a big country like India. Ukraine also trying to do this, and Russia also is trying to do this. But at the same time, India is trying to keep out of this situation and to keep the negotiation with both the countries. And I think Ukraine could be India in previous years, but not now. India is lucky and unlucky at the same moment because of size of this country. It's a huge country. It's a huge country, and no one world political or military bloc is able to accept this country without the cardinal radical rebuilding of this country. Ukraine is much smaller. It is still a big country. It's the biggest country in Europe, but it's much smaller than India. And Ukraine, unfortunately, is able to be accepted to the West or to the East. And at the same time, some previous time, we lost our sovereignty. I'm talking about our ability of our elites to manage our country in a non-alignment way, in non-neutral way. It's a historical problem for Ukraine. India is maybe in this moment, in nowadays terms, India may be younger country, but it's Ukrainian. It's very, very common situation when we are because we are between East and West, between West and Eastern political blocks. And every time in our history, we are repeating this problem in our history. We are trying to find partners, allies, in the East or in the West, in the South and in the North, and our elites are not still able to find this non-alignment, independent, sovereign way, which India is trying to keep on, even when she is suffering because of it.
Well, would you say that Ukraine can get back to this track where it will try to remain neutral and somehow strategically align its policy in the same way that India is doing at the moment?
I want to remind you only one historical example. About the Switzerland, the country in Europe, which was very active in European wars before, in 15th century, 16th century, 17th century, and then was a Vienna Congress, which proclaimed this country like a neutral country, and it is still now a neutral country. And Ukraine also could take this way by own will or maybe by international decision in the future after the war.
Right. Dr. Benay,
Yeah.
I want to talk about India and China arguments. India and China are in a tight situation where they have business and political conflicts. How is India balancing that situation, and what do you think could be a long-term resolution?
Modern relations between China and India are, due to border disputes, which have resulted in three major military conflicts: the Sino-Indian border war in 1962, the Sino-Indian border war in 1967, and Sanbo-Chu Valley confrontation in 1987. And 2005, the border problem was partially resolved, but China recognized Sikkim as Indian territory, and New Delhi named Tibet the Tibetan Autonomous Region. At the beginning of 2010, India does not recognize the sovereignty of the Celestial Empire over the Aksai China region. And Beijing demands the New Delhi transfer the state of Arunachal Pradesh to China. And in May 2020, another Indo-Chinese border conflict occurred again. So relation between India and China are opposed due to rivalry and border issue. Despite increasing trade, thus bilateral trade between India and China crossed more than 136 billion in 2023. So you see one side geopolitical conflicts going on, other side businesses increasing.
Usual. But how does India addressing those issues, especially the border disputes?
So border issue, of course, I think that about this, Dr. Gulraj will tell more, about China-India conflicts, because he lives in India and he see more as a witness. Yeah.
Dr. Gulraj, would you be able to help us out?
Well, as far as China is concerned, we had a major war in 1962, and then also after that also we have small skirmishes, and it was as recently as past 3 years back. So we had a cooperation and conflict with China. It's a relationship, I will say, an easy relationship of cooperation plus conflict. But right now I'm looking in some other direction, because I was reading an article. I'm not very much enthusiastic, or I'm not buying that article very much, but there was an article in Economist just few days back, and the title of the article was "From Breakup to Makeup," and that it was vis-a-vis India-China relationship. And I think and they were describing that both the countries are coming together, both the countries are coming in line with each other, both the countries are resolving their issues. But let me tell you very frankly, all the issues are not being resolved, but yes, things have eased up, and the rhetoric from both the sides has also eased up. And I am looking in another direction. I think right now China needs India, because just now we have seen that their economic growth has declined. We also saw the third plenary session of the 20th Central Committee meeting of Chinese Communist Party, and there was actually no outcome, and it was actually shambles. We didn't got anything, and nobody got anything. Nobody focused on it. No major outcome came out of that third plenary session. And third plenary session is very important, because it actually paints a 1 decade-long vision of Chinese economy. So Chinese economy is going down. China is also facing a demographic problem, and right now it needs India for its markets. And when the competition between United States of America and China is not just growing, but it is actually converting into a lukewarm war. And we just saw some days back when Ursula got re-elected as in the European Commission, as the head of the European Commission. She started talking about China in her maiden speech. So China I don't think that China want another front as big as India, and that is the reason they want some things to become easy for them. Plus, there are other forums like BRICS. BRICS is trying to make its own financial systems, which are not integrated directly with the Western systems. So I think both these giants will eventually make peace with each other. There is no hot war right now, but things are not as easy as it should be. But I am optimistic that finally there will be peace between both the neighbors, because China also needs India. It cannot afford to start a big front with India when it is facing all kinds of pressure from the Western camp, and these pressures are going to increase once Trump is in the Oval Office. Remember, this old Joe is comparatively quite milder on China compared to Donald Trump, and Donald Trump will go full on like he did in his last year in the Oval Office. So China, I think they are also worried, and that is the reason that situation of China will eventually make peace with India. That's what I think.
Right. And I want to also talk with you about the Prime Minister Modi visit to Russia. What was the
Yeah.
purpose of that visit? And in your personal opinion, do you think that was a successful visit, and have Prime Minister Modi have achieved its agenda?
See, this was a bilateral visit, and it is not the first time. It is actually a procedure that 1 year Indian Prime Minister visits Russia, and another year Russian presidents visit India. And this is going on from quite some time, and it is going well. And as far as the chemistry is concerned, the chemistry of politicians can be seen by the optics. The kind of reception Mr. Modi got there was actually better than what Xi Jinping got. And if you look at protocol wise also, Modi ji was greeted more and given more respect compared to Xi Jinping. So it says a lot. It says that both the chemistry of the top leadership of both the countries is quite good, and people to people connect is also good. And definitely, there were talks on vis-a-vis business, technology transfer, and Russia has also said that they will be transferring a lot of military use technology to India. They are also interested in building more of the nuclear power stations in India. So, yeah, and we have international north-south corridor, which is an alternate route for trade, and it is actually growing, and it also has Iran in that. So you can see the power of India. We are friends with Western camp. We are also friends with Iran, and in the Iranian port, we are having a lot of investment there. So we are also working on that issue. But along with that, if you look, Prime Minister Modi, he talked with Mr. Putin regarding war as well, and even before that, I think it was Kazakhstan where they met SCO. There he said, Putin, that this is not an era for war. Now you tell me one thing, brother, who is another world leader who can talk with Putin in this manner, who can talk straightforwardly? It's a different thing that whether what will be the outcome of that. But I think Modi is the only person. Can Joe Biden do it? Can Macron do it? Can Ursula do it? They can't do it. Modi is the only global leader, world leader who can talk Putin on the friendly relation side of India and Russia, and also about what's going on in the war. He said that this is not the era of war. Previously, this time he said specifically, when children are killed, it pains us. So he said whatever he has to say. And mark my words, if I have been saying this thing to Ruslan since the war started, that the best thing for Ukraine is they should directly talk with Russia. And if they are going to do it, I think India can be a good supporter and can also provide a better
Can
platform where
India
both
be
the
one
parties
of
can
the
talk.
partners? Can India be one of the
Yes.
partners for Ukraine in peace negotiations?
Oh yes, oh yes. But the issue is that what it's my constant take before Zelensky regime changed the constitution and made and wrote that Zelensky cannot talk to Putin or Russia. Even before that, I have been maintaining one thing that West will be fighting up till the last Ukrainian. Russia will be fighting until the last Ukrainian. But just think about that last Ukrainian who is being slaughtered. And for that Ukrainian, I'll say that Zelensky should directly talk to Putin, and it will make a lot of sense, I think.
Unfortunately,
And India can be a best platform.
I have to Gulraz, I have to answer because Gulraz raised a very important question.
Yeah.
Very important question. Unfortunately, I don't think that this direct dialogue will resolve this conflict because Russia wants much more than Ukraine. I want to remind you the letters from Putin to the NATO and to the President of the United States in December 2021, before the war, when he claimed to withdraw American troops, Western troops from Eastern Europe, when he claimed to demilitarize all this region, when he claimed that Russia's zone of influence is Middle Asia, post-Soviet countries, and so on. I think this conflict has three levels. Geopolitical level, when Ukrainian-Russian dialogue, it's not a decision for this for resolution. Ukrainian-Russian level, in this level, Ukrainian-Russian dialogue should be very good, I think. Second level, and also internal Ukrainian level, because there is a hard question about the unification of Ukrainian society, about the back in Ukrainian migration wave, about the back in the Ukrainians who are living under the Russian control, a lot of internal questions also. So in the second level, it's good idea, maybe. In the higher first or third level, it doesn't work for me. Also, I want to clarify some that there is no one prohibition to the negotiation with Putin. It's very popular thing in Russian mass media, but I've read it personally. This act, this order of the president of Ukraine. There is only a phrase: "We are not able." We are not prohibiting this dialogue with Putin. We are not able to negotiate with Putin. We are not able, not prohibited. But I am not able to be a rocket man, unfortunately, or an Olympic champion.
Ruslan, we can also mention that during the last peace summit that was held in Switzerland, they have added in communique that there is a way potentially to have those negotiations directly between Russia and Ukraine.
Yeah.
No, I will not like to interrupt before I leave because I have another interview on another TV channel.
All right.
But I will like to interrupt that last communique. Some countries were very important in that. See, China abstained from that summit, that Swiss summit. Then it was India and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia who did not sign on account that Russia should be present. Because just think about that. The two warring factions are basically Russia, Ukraine, and the entire Western Bloc. And if you are talking about peace, how can you have peace without talking with Russia? That was so simple, and why they were doing it, I don't know. And I should not say that but the European diplomacy, what they have become, it's a shame. It's a shame, I'll say.
No, Dr.
That
sorry for interference, but you are in India, therefore you are imagining this way. But we are in Ukraine, and knowing here all political side and our leaders and what is happening, we understand that with Putin, dialogue impossible as of now. If
Dr.
direct
I'll say
direct Zelensky and Putin talk, nothing will possible. Zelensky will not go and talk with him directly in first level, as Ruslan also said. Yeah, first level, there should be some interference. without them to take some decision, and then to connect them.
Collaborate.
Because this will not
Actually,
possible, because this is war
ac-
not like, this is war not like this, that Putin start and he war. This war, you are I agree with you. This is not only with Ukraine. This is not war with Ukraine. This war with NATO.
Collective West.
NATO
Collective
and
West,
yes, but this is a soldier is Ukrainian.
That is the issue. That's what I'm saying. That think about that poor Ukrainian who is getting
Yes,
slaughtered.
therefore,
Nobody is
Dr.
thinking about them.
Gurdesh, need here that NATO and from Western side someone come and talk with Putin first, because this war is not Zelensky, not Ukrainian. This war with them.
It's
But
very
in our-
unfortunate. It's not possible. Why it's not possible? We just saw some days back Viktor Orban went there. He went to Ukraine, he went to Moscow, and look at how he was treated within the NATO family. And even right now, when Budapest is hosting the foreign affairs meeting, many of them are not going because it is being hosted in the presidency of Viktor Orban. If NATO is behaving like that, how can you do? And let me tell you one more thing. The Istanbul talks in Turkey, they were leading to results. Almost things were finalized. It was Boris Johnson who went to Ukraine and punctured it. So I'm telling you one thing, that West is actually fighting up till last Ukrainian to hit Russia. I always maintained one thing, that it was the worst day for Ukraine in 1996 when they surrendered their nuclear weapons to Russia. And today is also the worst day for Ukrainians, poor Ukrainians, when they want to be in NATO, and NATO is not taking them. Then the whole issue is because of NATO. If on the day one, Mr. Zelensky would have written that, okay, we will stay neutral, all these problems would have not come. But he was very much willing to board with NATO and with the best, and he was not caring, unfortunately, for the Ukrainians. This happens when the leaders of the countries. Why I started with India? I started with India that India care for Indians. Indian interests are for Indians. When your alignment is with any other country, if your people in the top brass of your power are aligned with the interest of any other country, this is going to happen with that country. In Indian neighborhood, look at the condition of Sri Lanka. Look at the condition of Pakistan. These all are the countries whose leaders, top brass leaders, were aligned with either with China or with Western camp, with America, and now those countries and the population are suffering. Thankfully, thank God, it never happened with India. And I wish the same for Ukrainians.
I think we come back to the first point and a very interesting point that
I'll take a leave because I'm having an interview.
Thank you so much for your time. Yeah,
thank you. Love from India. Love from India.
Thank you, Gulrez. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, I was just mentioning that we just came back to a very interesting point and perspective. When a country cares for its people and puts its own people in the first priority, it's easier to develop a foreign policy as India does and stick to it because they consider their population interest and their population success and well-being. In terms of politics, I think we've covered good perspectives. I just want to talk a little bit more with Dr. Binay about the business relationship that we started earlier between Ukraine and India. And just to bring up the opportunities that can happen between the countries. We talked about things that Ukraine can export to India. We talked about India, that it's need for things that Ukraine can export. And you've mentioned there is a potential collaboration that Indians and Ukrainians can meet. Is that correct, Dr. Binay?
Yeah. Already in Ukraine, there is more than 100 of Indian businessmen, entrepreneurs, who are living here more than 30 years. And they have pharmaceuticals, medicine.
Pharmaceutical, yeah.
Yeah, pharmaceutical, fertilizer business, as well textile business, steel, metal business, and also here is some entrepreneur who has their Indian restaurants, hotels, yeah. So as well grains, because earlier before COVID, there was in Ukraine everyone knows fertile land, and they have a more than 100 hectares, 200 hectares Indian. So Indian business is already developing in Ukraine, yeah. And same from India. India import a lot of here bus, mini bus, machinery, textile, as well electronics from India. And from Ukraine, vegetable oil, agriculture, other products, yeah, UPens. So you see, already there is a collaboration, there is a points.
So
This
we have a lot of industries where Ukraine and India can collaborate and work together. I have a question for Ruslan. Ruslan, do you think Ukraine and Ukrainian leadership and businessmen and business owners are ready to expand and collaborate with the Indian partners?
I hope so, because I think it's a main problem between our country. It's low level of economical relations and ties. It's very easy to find out comparing with the collaboration, with the cooperation between India and Russia for nowadays. For example, all the trade between these countries between 60 till 100 billion dollars for the last year, and between Ukraine and India near $2.5 billion for the last year. So we can estimate the difference of the ties of interests of cooperation, communication between the business elites and political elites between the countries. I think this is the main problem between our countries. In the future, I think India could be interested in Ukrainian lands, agricultural lands, and production made from these lands, especially because we are able to make a very quality and very cheap agriculture production, which could be consumed in India's market in every moment, because India has a huge population, and this population is growing up. Not like in China, for example, but it's continued growing up. It's very important. I think also Ukraine is interested in India's pharmaceutical production, different types of. Ukraine could be interested in some Indian technology, IT technology, machinery technology. Otherwise, Ukraine could propose India our military technology, which are now also in a very high level. So we need to find these models of deepening our cooperation, because in other way, India will be some more pro-Russian than pro-Ukrainian, only because of economical ties, business.
Because of financial situation, that makes sense.
Yes, this is a problem. Maybe we need to make something special from Ukrainian government. We need maybe to make the visit of Ukrainian president to India. We need a very tough political push in this situation, maybe to rebuild this situation.
And you're leading me to my next question. What is holding Ukraine back from expanding and developing stronger and tighter relationships between India and Ukraine?
Distance, of course, and distance, war, and a very weak logistic for nowadays. Russia is closer to India in any case. Russia has more developed fleet, and we need to resolve all this problem.
Yeah, also here need to figure out what is gap in India. India, there is nothing like this, that there is a scarcity or deficiency, lack of anything. there is some gap. This gap need to fill. And this gap, you can imagine, John, that this is we have to feed up more than 2 billion people, right? So this is a big gap for India. So this gap, we have to figure out what need to export and what need to discuss. As Ruslan said, that need to push president. Already our foreign minister Kuleba visited India. There was some development, but this need to more, as he said, that this need
Push.
to forcefully push, and on regular basis, even every week to talk, or maybe every day to talk, because Ukrainian ambassador Polishuk, Dr. Polishuk in India, he is doing a lot, but not all depends on him. There is a from here.
So what we need to do, instead of having an individual person who's trying to do something for India-Ukrainian relationship, we need to develop a strategical agenda for Ukraine, how it's going to approach its progress with the relationship with India and what are the financial interests that can carry, and just follow that policy strategically and continuously.
Yeah, we have to widen our horizon. Then only anything possible, because whenever there is interaction with Ukrainian, I always ask, tell me, what concretely we can export to India? And there is a question. There is a, for some time silence. So we have to first of all figure out what is need of India, because we need India as of now, right? Not Ukraine need India. We need India. I'm living here. I feel that we need India, because India as our partner or as our friend also can mediate in war to stop.
Between Ukraine and Russia. That's
yes,
correct.
Of course, because India is a head of Global South, and also member of the Shanghai Organization. So BRICS, and BRICS, you see, this is a controversial that India and China is there. So this is a reason why.
But they're still able to maintain their relationship, right? Despite their disputes, despite the border issues, right? That's correct. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much today for your time. The key points that we can take from that conversation is that India has a unique perspective towards its foreign policy. I like the idea that India is following what its people need and putting them as the first priority. That is something that Ukraine learned from India's foreign policy and its perspective. I like that we have a lot of business opportunities that can occur and happen and be developed between India and Ukraine, and the strategy should be to develop a strategic agenda and continuous policy how Ukraine can and should be working towards that direction. And we would hope that people will hear us out and take our ideas and bring it more into a practical perspective with the Ukrainian government. All right.
Thank you, colleagues.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you again. Thank you for your time, and we hope you're going to have all a good week.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye.
Bye.